The story begins with a boy named Sido, who is threatened by his classmate Akane, warning him that she will erase his existence if he tells anyone in their class about their marriage. The scene shifts to 4 days earlier, where Akane is furious at Sido for filling the class journal with nonsense. He shrugs it off, saying no one reads it anyway, and advises her to read her books instead of bothering him. However, she insists she's only trying to make him a better person. Their classmate Hamari interrupts, telling Akane to ease up on him, wondering why she always bullies him. Akane explains that whenever she sees him, she feels an urge to crush him. Hamari assumes Akane has a crush on him, but Akane strongly denies it, saying that even if he were the last man on Earth, she wouldn't fall for him, and he shares the same sentiment. On his way home, Sido receives a call from his grandfather, Tenya, who invites him for coffee. Sido declines, saying he needs to study, but Tenya reminds him that he will inherit the company in the future and warns him that he will regret neglecting him. Sido politely refuses, but Tenya insists that he cannot disobey. Suddenly, Tenya's guards surround him and escort him into their car. He asks where they're taking him, but they refuse to answer. One apologizes for their president's selfish actions, but Sido, accustomed to it, recalls how his grandfather saved their family business by firing incompetent executives. Upon arrival, Sido begins reading his book, but is soon interrupted by Akane, who is shocked to see him. He tells her he only came to meet his grandfather and asks why she's there. She reveals that her grandmother Chio invited her for lunch, but seeing Sido has already ruined her mood. He tells her to be quiet as he's reading, sparking an argument until their grandparents arrive. They sit for a meal, but Sido and Akane continue bickering, which amuses their grandparents as it reminds them of their younger days. Sido questions why they were invited, and their grandparents announce that they must get married. Shocked, Sido thinks they're joking, and Akane protests that they're too young. However, Chio explains they can marry when they turn 18. Tenya shares how he and Chio had feelings for each other in their youth but never united as he married his fiancée, who passed away a decade ago. Chio's husband also passed away, and though they now enjoy life together, they wonder what could have been if they had married earlier. They wish for their grandchildren to fulfill their dream by marrying at 18. Akane calls them selfish, arguing that marriage should be based on love. Sido agrees, stating he has no intention of marrying her and that forced marriage is illegal. Their grandparents laugh, with Tenya saying he expected Sido to object. He then declares that if Sido refuses to marry Akane, he will leave the entire company to a stray dog, indifferent to whether the business ends with him. Chio whispers something to Akane, leaving her visibly shocked, while Tenya gives them 3 days to reconsider their emotions and make a decision. After they leave, Sido asks Akane what Chio told her, but she refuses to answer, saying it's her future. Later at home, Akane thinks about Sido, recalling how he always scores higher than her. Hamari calls, and Akane immediately asks what she would do if her family forced her into marriage. Hamari replies that she would reject it, as she already has a crush, making Akane curious about who it is. However, Hamari changes the subject, asking if Akane has feelings for anyone. Akane denies having a crush, prompting Hamari to joke that she should accept the marriage to split the bills. Akane dismisses it as a bad reason for marriage and worries about intimacy, to which Hamari playfully suggests she'll end up with 100 children. Meanwhile, Sido dreads the idea of Akane bullying him at school and at home, fearing it would be unbearable. His cousin notices his gloomy mood and asks what's wrong. He reveals that their grandfather has made an unreasonable demand, explaining that Tenya told him he must obey every order if he wants to inherit the company. If he refuses, Tenya will give the company to a dog. She asks if he values freedom or the company more, and he admits he wants both. She calls him selfish, reminding him that everyone must follow rules. He asks if she wants him to inherit the company, and she assures him that she will stay by his side, regardless of the outcome. She knows he needs the company to achieve his dreams and won't stand in his way. She assures him that she won't leave him no matter what happens. The next day, as Sido enters the classroom, he tries to talk to Akane, but she completely ignores him. After 3 days, their grandparents ask if they've made a decision, and surprisingly, both agree to get married since they have no other choice. Sido tries to leave, saying he will handle the family register and ceremony after graduation, but Tenna insists they marry immediately, revealing that he has already prepared a new home for them. Sido attempts to make an excuse, saying he needs to pack, but Tenna informs him that their belongings have already been moved. Chio then reveals that the marriage papers have been sent. As they step into the house, Sido locks the door, making Akane uneasy as she mistakenly thinks he's blocking her escape. She likes the house, but complains that it's ruined because she has to share it with him. She soon notices there's only one bed and immediately calls Tenny, but he tells them that since they are married, they must share it. He adds that they are not allowed to sleep on the sofa or floor, making Sido wonder if there are hidden cameras in the room. He offers to carry Akane's stuff, but she refuses and immediately trips, prompting him to catch her. He jokes that if she died on their first day as a married couple, he'd be blamed for murder. Sido finds a pizza left by his grandfather and thinks that despite being crazy, Tenna is also considerate. However, just as he's about to eat, he realizes that Akane is hungry and offers to share. But she refuses, saying she won't eat with him like a married couple. He tries to clarify, but she misinterprets his intentions, thinking he's trying to take advantage of her. Later that night, Akane lies beside him, but since the bed is too small, she wonders if Tenna deliberately chose it. Sido asks why she agreed to marry him, but she won't reveal the reason, only stating that she'll do anything for her dream. He then asks what they would do if they were forced to have a child, which startles her. She accidentally moves closer to him, gets flustered, and angrily twists his fingers. Returning to the present, Akane threatens to kill Sido if he reveals their marriage, saying that if anyone finds out, she'll have to take her own life, making him realize how much she despises him. He assures her that he also wants to keep it a secret, but she doesn't believe him. To prove himself, he swears not to tell anyone. She decides to trust him as they enter the classroom, but Hamari notices and asks what they were talking about. Akane quickly lies, saying she was just telling him to stop speaking to her casually. His cousin then asks where he stayed the previous night, mentioning that his hair smells different. He lies, saying his dad bought a weird shampoo, but she points out that he smells like a girl. Suspecting he got married, she investigated and found his new house. Realizing she knows the truth, he panics and covers her mouth before dragging her outside. She tells him she isn't obligated to keep the secret since he didn't confess to her himself. She demands a bribe but can't decide what she wants, saying she'll let him know later. Until then, his life is in her hands. After gym class, Sido is exhausted, but Akane starts an argument over putting the gym equipment back in the storage room. Their classmates observe and comment on how often they fight. Hamari mentions that they're becoming famous for their constant arguments and notes that some students think they act like a real couple. Akane freaks out, realizing that they actually are married. The next day, while Sido is reading, he hears Akane screaming upon discovering that he has filled their refrigerator with juice. He argues that it's healthy and full of vitamins, but she points out that it lacks proper nutrients. He then shows her his cabinet full of cup noodles, shocking her even more. She questions where he gets his protein, so he proudly presents his protein shake, but she insists it's bad for their health. He offers her a taste, but she suspects it's poison, saying his taste in food is strange. He proudly states that it took years to develop his current tolerance level. She worries that he might die without her and decides to teach him how to cook. As she prepares a meal, she expects him to be overjoyed and thank her sincerely. However, when she serves him, he hesitates, tapping the food to check for hidden nails, but finds nothing. He takes a bite and it reminds him of his childhood. She asks if he likes it, and he replies that it's just an ordinary, gently cooked meal, which actually means a lot to him. Misunderstanding his response, she becomes upset, snatches his plate, and declares that if he doesn't like it, she'll give it to a dog. He quickly corrects her, insisting he never said it tasted bad. He quickly finishes eating. The next morning, Akane tries to wake him up, but still half asleep, he mistakes her for Shisei and pulls her close. She gets furious, but he apologizes, explaining that he wasn't expecting her to wake him. She tells him she only came to scold him for leaving the dishes unwashed. He suggests using the remaining dishes, saying he'll clean them once they pile up, but she insists he clean them immediately. She then finds toilet paper scattered in the bathroom and complains, but he casually replies that he cleans once a month because it's more efficient. On their way to school, he reflects on how their values are completely opposite and wonders if they can even live together. After returning home, he enjoys playing his favorite video game, but Akane interrupts, complaining that the noise is too distracting. She looks at the screen and questions why he's playing such a strange game, but he tells her it's a zombie hunting game. Disgusted, she demands he turn it off, but when he refuses, she tries snatching the controller. In the struggle, the console accidentally unplugs, shutting down the game. Just then, the doorbell rings, and when Akane goes to check, she finds more of Sido's belongings being delivered. When she returns, she notices he looks devastated. After sorting out his books, he decides to take a bath, preparing himself for another argument with Akane. However, upon entering the bathroom, he's shocked to find Akane already lying in the tub. He quietly leaves, but wonders why she didn't notice him. Concerned, he calls out to her, but when she doesn't respond, he worries she might have passed out. He rushes back in and realizes she has fallen asleep. Fearing she might drown, he tries to pull her out, but he loses his balance, causing her to fall on top of him. She freaks out, accusing him of being a pervert and yelling at him to leave, but he insists he did nothing wrong. Later, she begins to feel guilty, realizing she may have overreacted since he was only trying to help. That night, she attempts to talk to him, but he doesn't seem interested, so she quietly cries herself to sleep. The next day, Hamari notices Akane crying at her desk and asks what's wrong. Akane confesses that she's struggling with a boy. They don't get along, but she wants to be his friend. Hamari suspects she's talking about Sido, having been curious about him since last year, but Akane denies any interest in him. Hamari advises her to focus on communication, saying it's the best way to understand someone. She adds that Akane shouldn't force respect, but should instead try respecting him first. Meanwhile, Sido meets Shisei, who asks why he isn't eating. He sighs, explaining that living with Akane is a nightmare. They constantly argue, which has ruined his appetite. She asks if he can get a divorce, but he tells her it's not an option because leaving means giving up the company. She advises him to find a way to get along with Akane, reminding him that as the future CEO, he must learn to manage people's emotions. He realizes she has a point. That evening, when Sido returns home, he finds Akane waiting at the door. As he tries to walk past her, she grabs his arm, saying they need to talk. He assumes she wants a divorce, but she surprises him by stating she wants to keep the marriage intact since breaking up isn't an option for her. He suggests setting house rules to avoid unnecessary arguments. Though he prefers doing laundry and dishes only when they pile up, he agrees to wash them more often. She asks if he has any requests, and he tells her to stop getting angry if he accidentally touches her in bed, noting that their sleeping space is already cramped. She tells him to use headphones when playing horror games and not to play when she's around. He teases her about being scared, but she insists they're just distracting. He suggests that they say thank you more often, believing it improves relationships. She reminds him to compliment her cooking, as making meals for someone takes effort. He explains that calling food normal is a compliment for him, though it would take a week to explain why. Later, Akane thanks Hamari for her advice, mentioning that although they haven't grown much closer, they still talked for 5 hours. That night, when Sido enters their room, Akane allows him to touch her, but he clarifies that he was only referring to accidental touches. The next day after school, Sido surprises Akane by bringing her a cake. She's shocked that he knows her favorite food, but he tells her he read it in the class journal. She finds it creepy since she had written it in a tiny corner and doesn't even remember doing so. He simply shrugs, explaining that he has a good memory. As thanks, she prepares a proper meal, which he finds delicious. Later, as he washes the dishes, he thinks about her, realizing she's acting differently from usual. Suddenly, she joins him and offers to help, and he notices how cute she looks when she smiles. A few days later, while Sido is reading a book, Akane excitedly tells him that she has rented a cat movie and wants to watch it with him. He isn't interested at first, but when he notices her excitement, he agrees to watch it with her. While she is fully focused on the movie, he dozes off, only waking up just before it ends. She thanks him and mentions that since he watched her favorite movie, it's now her turn to watch something he likes. However, he explains that he prefers games over movies and thinks she might also get hooked on them. He then teaches her how to play, and after 30 minutes she starts enjoying it, even managing to defeat him. Later that night, he assumes Akane is asleep, so he tucks her in, but she is still awake and thanks him for taking care of her. He tells her that next time they'll go shopping for their favorite games and movies together. She then asks him to call her by her first name, saying that she will do the same. The next day at school, Sio's eraser falls off his desk, and Akane picks it up for him. Himari sees this and asks Akane if they had a fight since she no longer argues with him. She wonders if they are getting along, but Akane thinks that could never happen with Sio, which shocks Himari because she doesn't recall them calling each other by their first names. Flustered, Akane suddenly rushes home, but Himari reminds her that it's only the first period. Meanwhile, Sio visits the library to read a book on communication skills, but Shisei finds him there and covers his eyes with her wet hands. He asks her why she did that, and she explains that she just wanted to fix his dry eyes. Noticing the book in his hands, she wonders why he's reading it, so he tells her he wants to improve his relationship with Akane. Later, Sio asks Akane if she's going out with her friends, as he wants to go shopping with her. She misinterprets it as him asking her on a date, so he quickly drags her away. He clarifies that it isn't a date, saying that carrying the bags alone would be a hassle, so she's only helping him. She agrees to go with him after her classes. As Akane is about to leave, Himari stops her and invites her to eat her favorite food, but she declines, saying she needs to meet someone. Himari wonders if she's meeting a new friend and expresses interest in meeting them too. However, Akane notes that they have already met, making Himari question if she is talking about Sio. Nervous, Akane tries to escape quickly but accidentally steps on Shisei, who reveals that she was waiting for her. She then asks Akane about her plans with Sio, but Akane runs away without answering. Akane waits for Sio, reminding herself that this isn't a date since they're only buying essential groceries. At the market, Sio picks expensive eggs, but she tells him to buy the cheaper ones since they're basically the same. She then sees a crowd gathering to buy meat on sale and rushes to join them, but despite her efforts, she fails to get any. Sio tries his luck as well, but he also fails. Akane notes that even though they lost this time, they will win next time. Sio isn't interested in trying again, but when she tells him they must do it together, he immediately changes his mind. On the way home, Sio praises her, saying she will make a decent wife one day, but she reminds him that she is already married. Later that night, Akane suddenly wakes up and sees Sio's hand reaching towards her, making her think he is trying to assault her. However, he explains that he simply found her face cute and wanted to pinch it. She asks him for details, and he explains that her sleeping face was so cute that he lost his composure. She then allows him to look at her while she sleeps. The next day, Akane is still lost in thought and accidentally burns their breakfast. Sio rushes to help, but she suddenly realizes that he isn't wearing anything. On their way to school, they share a loaf of bread, but Himari sees them together and questions what they are doing. Akane quickly makes up an excuse, claiming that Sio was stalking her and that he picked up and ate her leftovers after she threw them away. However, Sio denies it, saying he would never do such a thing. That night, Sio sees Akane preparing for their upcoming quiz, which surprises him. He reveals that he never studies for tests because he remembers everything from class. He makes her a strawberry sandwich, which she finds delicious, thinking it will help her do better on the quiz. In the following days, he continues making sandwiches for her whenever she studies. However, since she isn't getting enough sleep, she eventually collapses at school. Himari helps her up and asks if she's okay. Akane admits that she wasn't able to get enough sleep because she was busy studying, saying she doesn't care as long as she gets to be the top scorer. However, Himari believes she will never be able to beat Sio. Hearing this upsets Akane, and she declares that she will surpass him, even if it takes 100 years. However, Himari reminds her that they will graduate soon and wonders if Akane plans to attend the same university as Sio. Akane replies that she won't, as it would make it seem like she has a crush on him. As Sio comes to give her a sandwich, he notices that she has a fever, so he tries to lower her temperature. Akane insists that she needs to study to achieve her dream of becoming a doctor, even if it means pushing herself to the limit, as she wants to help keep those around her healthy. She then reveals that her family isn't wealthy, so they don't have enough money to send her to university. Akane wants to go to medical school, but her grandmother promised to cover her tuition if she married Seo. She thinks he has everything since he always gets better grades than her without even studying, but he reminds her that talent differs for everyone. She admits that she looks up to him, but when she realizes what she just said, she tells him to forget it. As her fever worsens, he tries to call an ambulance, but she stops him, saying it should only be used for people in critical condition. He looks for a taxi, but when none are available, he picks her up and runs toward the hospital. She is surprised by his strength and assumes he will mock her dream, but he believes she can achieve anything. Although he sees their marriage as an unfortunate event, he is certain they will have a happy ending. It turns out to be just a mild fever, and Akane recovers within a week. However, Seo starts teasing her, reminding her that she admitted to looking up to him, even revealing that he recorded what she said. At school, Seo meets Himari, who congratulates him on his perfect quiz score. But when she gets too close, he becomes uncomfortable. After she leaves, Akane approaches him and tells him not to get too close to other girls, saying that as his wife, she won't allow it. As they walk around campus, Akane tells Seo to wait for her, but he refuses, thinking she might hurt him. However, she only gives him his lunch, asking why he left it behind. He says he simply forgot to take it, but she assumes he hates her cooking. To reassure her, he tells her that he enjoys her food, which makes her blush, and she insists that he eat everything since she put in so much effort. During lunch, Shisei demands that Seo give her all of his food, saying she's hungry and that, as the older brother, it's his duty to help her. He points out that she must have eaten a big breakfast, and she admits to having 3 bowls of rice. He notes that she's eating more than him, yet she still tries to take his meal. Their classmates encourage him to share, and Himari notices that his lunchbox matches Akane's. Their classmates suspect they are dating, but Akane denies it. However, everyone teases them, saying it proves they are married. As Seo tries to explain, Shisei eats all of his food, claiming he should thank her for getting rid of the evidence. Later, Himari runs into Seo and asks if Akane really made lunch for him. He explains that they just used the same frozen food, though it's possible she tried to copy him. This reassures Himari that they aren't dating. That night, Akane suddenly wakes up screaming, startling Seo. She tells him she saw a ghost, but he doesn't believe her and tries to go back to sleep. However, she refuses to let him rest because she's too scared. He suggests they check the house to see if anything is actually there, but she clings to him, insisting he stay with her. Later, while he's reading in his room, she tells him she heard ghostly footsteps while studying. He tells her to take a picture as proof, but she starts crying, saying she can't because the ghost might haunt her. She then insists on studying in his room, claiming she'll protect him from the ghost, but he tells her to return to her own room. She refuses to leave. When he goes to the bathroom, she bangs on the door, demanding that he keep it open. Then, just as she's about to take a bath, she hesitates, saying it's too dangerous for her to bathe alone. She then asks him to go with her. He sits outside the door, and she asks if he's still there. When he doesn't reply, she steps out without wearing anything, making him yell at her to put on a towel. The next day at school, Shisei realizes something happened with Akane. Seo is surprised she knows, but she explains that she can tell by the way he sounds. Knowing he comes to her for comfort, she opens her arms and tells him to hug her. But instead, he lifts her up, warning her that standing there is dangerous. He tells her about Akane thinking their house is haunted, and Shisei believes it might be true, promising to investigate. Later, Shisei tells Akane that she knows about her marriage to Seo since they live under the same roof. She claims she can see through everything, but before she can say more, they take her to an empty classroom. Akane is upset, assuming Seo told Shisei about their marriage, but he reassures her that he didn't. Shisei confirms it wasn't him and points out that it shouldn't be surprising for his family to know. She then warns them that their house is full of evil spirits and claims that if they aren't exorcised, Akane's grades will drop by 50 points. Akane, concerned, asks what to do, and Shisei insists on seeing their house. Once they arrive, Shisei declares the house is full of spirits and warns them it will soon be destroyed. Akane wonders if they should burn it, but Shisei promises to handle the spirits. She inspects Seo's study room and accuses him of reading dirty books since he always shuts them quickly when she tries to look. Akane scolds him, but he insists he only reads normal novels. As Shisei searches the room, she finds his underwear, which embarrasses Akane. However, before Seo can stop her, Shisei sniffs it, forcing him to snatch it away. Next, she investigates Akane's study room. Akane claims there are no spirits there, but Shisei suspects she's only saying that to prevent her from going through her things. Akane then takes Shisei to where she saw the ghost, describing it as the shadow of a small child. After thinking for a moment, Shisei reveals that she was the ghost. Confused, they ask her what she means, and she admits she has been sneaking into their house for the past few days. She explains that she got a key from their grandfather. They are annoyed she didn't tell them sooner, but she says she visits in secret to avoid interfering with their romantic moments. Since she solved their mystery, she demands dinner as a reward, saying she loved Akane's lunch. Akane agrees to cook for her. As Shisei eats, Seo wipes her face, making Akane think they're too close. Afterward, Shisei sits on Seo's lap while playing games, and he notices Akane glaring. He asks if something is wrong, saying she looks like a demon, which angers her. That night, when Akane and Seo go to bed, she is relieved to finally talk to him alone. She voices her complaints, saying he should have told her before buying the cat game since she wanted to play it first. They begin arguing, and she says she should complain to him daily to ease her stress. She also tells him that he pampers Shisei too much, and he asks why that's a problem. Suddenly, they are startled as Shisei appears between them, saying she sleeps with him every time she comes over. She then reveals she has always been with him. Since she was a baby, Shisei has felt calm when hugging him. She finds it unfair that Akane is always with him, but she clarifies that she isn't doing it because she likes him. Instead, it's a condition set by their grandparents for their marriage. She adds that if Akane wants to get intimate with him, Shisei can sleep on the floor, but she has no intention of doing so. Akane says Shisei can stay with them, and after Seo falls asleep, Shisei tells Akane that she knows she felt jealous when she was with him. Akane denies it, but Shisei can tell she's lying. Shisei advises Akane that Seo is slow to understand, so she needs to express her feelings clearly for him to get it. Akane wonders what she means, but Shisei just cuddles with Seo, making Akane tell her to move away. In a flashback, Akane is with Hamari, who invites her to watch a TV show. Akane declines, saying she doesn't have time to play and still needs to study. Hamari, wanting to be friends, invites her to take the long way home and promises to treat her to a strawberry parfait. Back in the present, Hamari asks Akane if she likes Seo, to which Akane strongly denies it, asking why she's asking. Hamari admits she has a crush on him, saying she likes everything about him. She recalls how Seo kept calm when her friend passed out at the sports festival and everyone panicked, which made her admire him for being dependable. She looks up to him because of his confidence and kindness and asks Akane to help her get closer to him. Akane agrees and asks what she should do, to which Hamari replies that she wants to get to know him. Meanwhile, Seo is resting at home but realizes that Akane is secretly filming him while he's eating. He asks her why she's doing it, but she remains silent. She refuses to tell him why she's filming him and wonders what kind of girl he likes. He explains that he doesn't have a specific type. She then asks about his favorite food, and he tells her it's steak, cooked rare, with garlic sautéed as the garnish. She mistakenly thinks he likes to eat the garlic raw. The next day, Akane tells Hamari that Seo prefers raw meat, which makes Hamari think he's a bit weird. Akane asks why she's so happy, and Hamari explains that she feels closer to him now that she's learning more about him. Akane mentions that Seo enjoys reading books and playing video games, and Hamari asks about the games he likes. Akane replies that he's into zombie shooters, though she finds them disgusting and thinks he should play different games. When Akane returns home, she says they're having fish, but Seo asks when they'll eat steak since she'd asked him about it. She tells him she'll take responsibility and they buy the ingredients for the steak. Akane shares that this is her favorite time of day, as it reminds her of her childhood when she looked forward to her mother's cooking. Seo responds that it's unrelated to him. Akane cooks the steak and insists he try it. He's surprised by how delicious it is, and she feels pleased that he's finally acknowledging her cooking skills. She tells him she'll cook anything for him. Later, Hamari asks Seo about the kind of girl he likes, mentioning her friend had told her he has no preference. She refuses to reveal who her informant is. Seo explains that romance shouldn't be based on a specific type, as it's just a limited pattern, and adds that humans are far more complicated. She wonders if she loves someone she doesn't really know but questions if he might like her. He asks what she means, but she laughs it off, saying she was just joking. Suddenly, Sayo appears and tells him she knows he's attracted to Amari. He denies it, but she insists she can sense it. As Seo plays video games, Akane searches his room and finds his secret notebook. She's about to open it when he suddenly appears behind her, causing her to panic. She says she's not a secret agent, but he doesn't seem bothered. She asks for a book recommendation, and he hands her a large book, saying it's a good read. Hamari tries reading it, but can't understand a word, so Akane wonders if she should have asked Seo for an easier book. Hamari reassures her that it's fine and that she'll ask Seo for help instead. She begins to talk to him, and Akane watches them. Seo helps her understand the book, mentioning that he owes her because she always stops Akane when she bullies him. Hamari then admits that she once saved her from being bullied, so she knows Akane isn't a bad person. Seo compliments her hair, and she tells him he's like Akane, who also told her hair was beautiful. Akane listens in on their conversation, and Sayo tells her that Hamari has always been into Seo. She thinks they could end up together, but Akane feels Hamari is too good for him. Sayo realizes she doesn't want them to be a couple. Later, Hamari is happy she could talk to Seo, and Akane wonders if he likes her too. She thinks she might have a chance but mentions that her house is a mess, so she can't invite anyone over. However, Hamari mentions that Sayo boasted about it. Hamari wonders if Akane doesn't want her at her house, but Akane reassures her that's not the case. She just needs to clean up. When they return home, Akane tells Seo that Hamari will be visiting and suggests he hide in his room until she leaves. However, when the doorbell rings, Seo asks Akane to handle Hamari while he hides his things. Realizing she's already inside, he runs for cover, and the girls have tea at the dining table. Hamari asks Akane if she can invite Seo on a date, thinking Akane might have feelings for him, but Akane explains she dislikes his attitude. Hamari is relieved they aren't rivals for his affection, but Seo feels down hearing this. In class, Hamari invites Seo to hang out, and Sayo asks Akane if she's okay with it. Akane says she just wants Hamari to be happy, but Sayo knows Akane also has feelings for Seo. That evening, Seo asks Akane if he can date Hamari, and she wonders why he's asking for permission. He reminds her they're married, but she tells him he can go out with anyone, since she doesn't even want to be his wife. The next day, as Seo gets ready to leave, Akane suddenly begs him not to go because she doesn't want to see him with another girl. He reveals he was waiting for her to say this, and that he rejected Hamari. Realizing he tricked her, Akane agrees to go shopping with him, and he assures her that she's already beautiful and promises to buy anything for her. Later, Seo talks to Hamari, wondering why she's still speaking to him after he turned her down. She tells him she won't give up and will make him love her. Akane watches from afar, wondering what she's saying but vowing not to lose. The video ends here. Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.